COM 202 presentation.
Has the internet, and more specifically the convergence that accelerated it, brought about the death of newspapers and the era of freely available news and information? Is this a good thing? Discuss.
Alright, I'm splitting up this question into three parts. The first being whether the internet has brought about the death of newspapers. Secondly, whether it has brought about the era of freely available news. And thirdly, whether this is a good thing. So, has it brought about the death of newspapers? On one hand, yes, news has been going online, such as st.com, Today Online, etc. And also, there are many online citizen journalism blogs such as Online Citizen, Temasek Review, and so on and so forth. Another point is that the internet has a one-stop hub feel to it. Like, it's the one place to go to where you can get everything: games, TV, entertainment, and news. So why go somewhere else to take the papers when everything's online? And the last point that makes this all possible is that people have a lot of increasing access to technology. The whole Apple craze has been going around, and it makes everything much more portable, such as iPads and iPhones and stuff. So therefore, like, news is more portable as well. It follows you wherever you go. You don't have to lug around a newspaper. You don't have to lug around a MacBook. On the other hand, print news has not completely died off either. There are measures that are put in place to do this. For example, in local newspapers, such as the Straits Times, their online articles are not as full length as those in the newspapers. Therefore, it gives something else to look forward to in newspapers rather than just online. It's more like complementary and supplementary. Also, people like the physical feel of reading because perhaps it makes them concentrate better or something. Or like with a cup of coffee, it's a more of a relaxation mode. Sometimes when you're reading news on the go, you don't fully absorb everything as compared to if you're sitting down with an open mind and trying to read the news. To delve deeper into the issue, we can actually do a demographic analysis. So, where things such as physiological factors, age, working status, business status, race, and all can come into play as well. But particularly relevant to this, I would say, are age and working class. So for age, for example, the younger generation tends to be more fascinated with changes in technology, like how they always want to keep up with the latest trends and are always updated. So therefore, online news suits this purpose. It caters to the younger generation in the sense that it fuels that drive to find out new things on the go and quickly as well. Another thing is the possible rebellious nature of younger people, as you can see from the recent general elections and how there was a storm on Facebook in support for the opposition. So perhaps younger people are drawn to this controversy, like the controversial nature of online news and forums. Lastly, entertainment news is also more rampant online, and therefore it could be more aligned with the interests of youths who are hooked onto entertainment news especially. However, in the older generation, most of them are more resistant to change because of their upbringing, perhaps. So they may not be willing to explore the internet so much as a source for news online and prefer to stick to traditional media. So the other thing to consider will be working class. For example, in the business class, where there's a need to watch stock markets, how they rise and fall, quick news is definitely important. And online news tends to give it more quickly and more accurately as well. Because especially since it's more varied, online news can cater to a very specific niche market. So unlike the newspaper, the print news that has to keep things general for public, you can go to specific websites to pursue your interest. So the next question is it a good thing? On one hand, it's a good thing because it offers more variety in terms of news, and as I said earlier, it does allows you to pursue a specific interest in the news. Secondly, it's more accessible and global. Okay, this is a bit hard to define because later I'll examine the downside. But in general, the internet allows comments in Singapore to be seen in America and vice versa. And it's accessible to anyone who has technology, which is definitely on the rise. Thirdly, there's a lower production cost, which includes because of the skipping of the process of printing, having to go through a company, editing, no need for many middlemen basically. So on the same vein, the fourth point is that it's much faster to produce online news. just one tweet about an earthquake and everyone knows. And same thing, busy working environment, what you want is quick bits of info, and thus online news is preferable. The next point, which is the most important, is that it allows for more feedback and faster feedback. As we all know, the newspapers locally, they do have forums such as Straits Times and all, but even those views that get selected in the forums are chosen for a specific reason. Not necessarily because they represent the majority, but because they seem to be more safe, so to speak. So thus, online forums tend to have a plethora of a whole range of opinions which are more accurate to see the situation and judge it. On the downside, the bad side, online news tends to be more controversial. It's harder to control, perhaps not so much editing. So even though there's less government censorship, there also is more citizen nonsense that they write. It's just right off the tip of the tongue, and nobody censors it. Similarly, secondly, it could be very inaccurate. It's difficult to check because there's so many online sources. You can't base one on the other, and it's a slippery slope. Like this source cites the previous source, which cites the previous source, and you don't know where it comes from. Also, most of the time, online news can be quite badly organized. You don't get a proper layout and a sense of hierarchy because there's no sense of prioritizing of news like in the newspaper. The front page story is the most important, whereas online you see on Yahoo News everything's lined side by side. All seem to have the same importance. You have to figure it out for yourself. Fourthly, it can be quite incomplete as well. Perhaps because it's so fast, there's not enough time to get all the information correct and gather it to make a cohesive story. The next point is that you tend to lose the feel of reading, and humans are essentially sentimental beings. Therefore, I think deep down inside we do like the actual physical act of reading. And lastly, it's more costly to access electronic devices. Imagine the 60 cents compared to perhaps the hundreds of thousands you pay for an iPad or a MacBook. So, especially in countries that are third world, this is not so accessible or so much of an option. And so, the main point that I'm trying to get across is that ultimately, this sounds very GP, but it's both good and bad, and they're complementary to each other. Print news is more important for a sense of hierarchy and prioritizing, and for you to get a sense of what's important. However, online news is better for a variety and fuller picture in terms of honest opinions. So thus, they can't exist without each other, basically, and they're there to complement each other. So that ends my presentation.